Hi, everybody. I hope you all had a decent spring break. I hope you're all healthy and happy and doing well. So, we're going to pick back up where we left off before break in chapter 10 on cell growth and division. If you remember before break, we talked about how cells grow and how cells are limited in their growth. Let's go back a little bit. Okay. So DNA overload is basically when the cell gets too big, the DNA is overloaded. It places too many demands on the DNA, so it stops growing, as well as exchanging materials like food and oxygen. It it will stop growing eventually. It will not be an exponential growth. Alrighty. So now we are starting section 10.2 on cell division. So first, before we really get into cell division, you need to know what chromosomes are because they play a huge role in mitosis and meiosis. So chromosomes are not visible in most cells except during cell division. They're just not visible. They're in the DNA and you can't really see them. So chromosomes consist of two identical sister chromatids. Okay, chromatids is one of these guys right here. Two of them is a chromosome. Okay, so they are connected with the centromere right here, this orange yellow dot. And two of these chromatids equals one chromosome. All human cells have 46 chromosomes. There are different numbers of chromosomes when you go through all of the plants and animals and other things. There are different numbers of chromosomes, but for our sake, you need to know that humans have 46 chromosomes. So the cell cycle is what we refer to when we talk about the cells dividing and growing. So a cell grows and prepares for division, and it starts to divide to form two daughter cells. So you have one cell and it divides to make two cells, two new cells. This is how people become people. We start as one cell, as egg. The sperm fertilizes the egg, and that thus creates or kicks the cell cycle into gear. So each daughter cell, or each of these two cells that comes from the one cell, receives its own genetic information, and the cell cycle consists of a dividing phase and a non-dividing phase. We talk about this dividing phase in all the different stages, but what we don't talk about as much is the non-dividing phase, which is actually the most prominent phase or the phase that lasts the longest. So interphase is the non-dividing phase. This is what we call interphase. And it is basically 90% of a cell's life. So that's the overwhelming majority of a cell's life is spent in interphase. And interphase has three kind of subparts, G1, S, and G2. So G1, the cell is actively growing. It's just getting larger. It's not dividing, it's just getting larger. The S stage is when the chromosomes replicate and the synthesis of DNA. DNA is created and the chromosomes start dividing. Not the cell itself, just the chromosomes. And G2 is organelles used, I should have said not dividing, I should have said multiplying. Sorry. G2 organelles used for cell division are created. So these organelles are not present for the most part in cells. They are kind of just present in cell division. So this is what interphase looks like. We have G1, S, and G2. You could see the chromatids are singular here, and then they connect to form chromosomes, multiply. Okay, this is kind of just an introduction to mitosis. I don't expect you to really know what's going on yet in that picture. Okay, so mitosis. Mitosis is a word that you've probably heard thrown around before, and it is basically just cell division in our cells. So it's when cells replicate and they start growing and dividing, growing and dividing, growing and dividing, and we become people. So prophase is the first phase of mitosis, and it is the longest phase. This is the beginning phase. So the chromosomes start to become visible, because remember before I told you that chromosomes usually are not visible unless mitosis is happening. So centrioles separate and a spindle forms. That we have, you can kind of see it over here. We have the centrioles over here. You'll be able to see it in pictures later on. The nuclear membrane starts to break down. So we have our nucleus here. The nuclear membrane starts to break down, and the nucleolus disappears. Now, as you can see, there is no nucleolus in here. The nucleolus is kind of like the little circle inside the nucleus, and that disappears during prophase. So the second phase of mitosis is called metaphase, and it is when chromosomes line up nice and neatly across the center of the cell. Microtubules connect to the centromere. So you could see these microtubules starting to form and connect, and you see these chromosomes lined up nice and neatly in the very center of the cell. And now this is where the cell is going to eventually split. And so you have two different cells at the end for the result. Okay, the third phase of mitosis is called anaphase, and sister chromatids are separated into individual chromosomes. Okay, we have the separation here. In this picture, they were together. Now they are pulled apart, separated. And the final phase of mitosis or cell division is telophase. Chromosomes break down back into chromatin, and the nuclear envelope reforms. As you could see here, you have the two nuclei, and this little dotted line around the nuclei is the nuclear envelope or the nuclear membrane. The nucleolus is visible again in each daughter cell. And as you could see, from here all the way to the fourth phase, you could see that the cell is starting to elongate. Okay, it's becoming more oblong or oval shaped rather than circular. And this is preparing it to kind of just split in half. So cytokinesis isn't technically a phase of mitosis, but it is the kind of last stage in the cell division process. So cytokinesis comes last, and it is the division of the cytoplasm. So basically, here we have the two daughter cells that you could see here, the two nuclei, the chromosomes. It will split here. The cytoplasm will start to split, like right here. And they start to kind of move, and it pinches off into two new cells. So cytokinesis makes this one blob into two brand new cells. And in plant cells, these are animal cells. In plant cells, the cell wall forms as well as the cell membrane. Okay, so here is the stages of mitosis and cell division all kind of broken down into a nice neat little package for you. We have interphase here, which is 90% of all cell life. We have interphase. This is where it's growing and it's not replicating at all. And we have prophase and late prophase. So they kind of are split into two subgroups, if you want to call them that. And that is going to be a question on your at least assignment that you're going to be doing next class. Then we have metaphase, which is our second phase in mitosis, and you could see all of the chromatids lining up. Here we have anaphase, and finally telophase, which is when they are almost completely split. Cytokinesis is when they split completely. So here's a visualization of a cell life. Okay, so as you could see, this kind of green rim around here is interphase. So this is 90% of cell life. And it's split up into G1, S, and G2, like we talked about before. This tiny little piece of the pie here is where mitosis and cytokinesis come into play. So only this little slice of the pie is when cells are actually dividing and replicating. Okay. So you are not going to have a quiz next class. Don't worry about that. I want to make sure you guys are familiar with the material before I quiz you. So you guys are going to be playing a game today on mitosis. Hopefully you'll be able to open the game up with your phone or tablet or computer, whatever you might have. If you cannot open the game and you've tried every way you can possibly try, I will give you an alternate assignment, but I think the game is a really fun way to learn and to reinforce what you listen to me blather on about for however long I've been talking. So if you have any questions at all, please let me know. Of course, I am available for you if you have any questions. Also, I will be available for the teleconferences. So if you would rather talk to me instead of email me, we'll have the capability to do that, I believe, starting Friday. So that's great. Just make sure you check with me that I have an availability for you. All right. So I hope you enjoy your game. Don't worry, the quiz is not this week. It will be next week. And I hope you guys have a good day.